let's go right ahead and talk about this. I don't even know how to describe this game. This interesting game because, as I said before, already having problems with Canva and presenting my slides. Just give me 1 second, please, before I just try and open these up. But as I said before, if there was any games that I wish would result in a tie, it would be games within my own division, the NFC East. I'm a Giants fan, and I always pray that if the Eagles match up against Washington, or if the Cowboys match up against the Eagles, if the Cowboys match up against Washington, or if the Eagles match up against the Cowboys, I always, always, always hope that these games end in a tie. In my opinion, ties are like the worst thing in NFL football and in football, period. There should never, ever be a tie. But if there was any time where I wish there was a tie, it would be when these teams play against each other. And I said in the last segment that if I was to pick any team to end up winning in this matchup, I would pick Philly. And turns out I was right. Philly, they ended up winning 26-18 against the Commanders. They were playing at home, so obviously, having that home field advantage is definitely something that helped them in this game. But the game started out really slow. And Philly did not score a single point in the first quarter. Washington did get on the board quickly in the first quarter with a touchdown, and the score was already 7-0 after the first quarter of play. And there was also there was a missed field goal coming in from the Eagles early in the first quarter. Washington had to punt, so not really as quickly as I alluded to before. But then the Eagles punted, and then right after the Eagles punted, then Washington ended up scoring a touchdown. Then it was back to Eagles punt, Washington punt, Eagles missed field goal, Washington punt, Eagles punt, Washington punt, Eagles finally make a field goal, Washington punts, Eagles make, and that's the end of the second half, excuse me. So, pretty boring first half. And not a lot of memorable moments in the first half of this game, I should say. But then the second half came, and then the flip switched. So that was when both of the teams started scoring. Washington started out with a field goal. Then the Eagles answered back with a field goal of their own. Washington punted. And then in the fourth quarter, that was really when Philadelphia realized that they were the Philadelphia Eagles, and they had to score touchdowns. So the first drive to open up the quarter, the Eagles score a touchdown. Then Washington decides to turn it over on downs, on a really unfortunate mistake there. But then the Eagles responded right back with a touchdown of their own. Then Washington, Jaden Daniels threw a terrible interception, and then the Eagles capitalized on it with another touchdown, and that effectively sealed the game for the Eagles. They scored on every single possession that they had the ball, and that was all she wrote for this game. The Commanders, they did try and put up a fight towards the end of the game. They went on a 15-play, 70-yard drive, which lasted 4 minutes, and they were able to get the touchdown off, as well as the 2-point conversion to make the score 26-18. However, in order to win in this kind of scenario with the amount of time that was left on the clock, they would have to go for an onside kick. And with the new onside kick rules, literally telling the other team that you're going to go for an onside kick, even though there was no other option but to go for an onside kick, the Eagles recovered it, and they knelt it, and that was the end of the game. So a little bit of a fake comeback in the end there for Washington, but they really just ran out of time against the Eagles. And it seems like right now the Eagles, they have returned back to their ways of winning games, and they didn't really get a dominant win, like overall in this game, like how we were used to seeing them win these games with Jalen Hurts under center, and in that year when they won the Super Bowl, not won the Super Bowl, excuse me, when they almost won the Super Bowl. That's my bad. Imagine the Eagles winning another Super Bowl. That would be something. But Jalen Hurts, he didn't really play well in this game. I mean, he was all right. He didn't score touchdowns, like passing touchdowns, but he didn't throw interceptions either. He threw for 221 yards, and he also got one rushing touchdown. Of course he did. He's Jalen Hurts. But this game was all Saquon Barkley. 26 attempts, 146 yards, and 2 touchdowns to show for it. Without a doubt, one of the biggest reasons why Philly is in the position that they're in. In fact, the fans in the post-game interview where Saquon was talking, like because they have this little sideline that a lot of the announcers, well, a lot of the broadcasters, they end up talking and they do post-game interviews for Thursday Night Football, and all the Eagles fans, they were there watching Saquon and they were chanting, "Thank you, Giants." I had to mention that because it just shows how badly the Giants messed up. But aside from that, on Washington's side, Jaden Daniels did not have a really good game. As I mentioned before, he threw an interception. He did throw a touchdown, but that touchdown came in garbage time when the team was trying to mount a fake comeback. Because, expecting the team to score a touchdown in the final few seconds of a game and convert on a 2-point conversion is a very difficult task. And that's something that Washington just was unable to pull off. It would have been crazy if they pulled it off, but that's really... It's almost inconceivable for an outcome like that to happen. Now, how should I say this? Brian Robinson, excuse me, that's my bad, I messed up the names there. He ended the game with 1 touchdown, 63 yards. The receiving core, for some reason, Washington's receiving core, they were asleep in the first half. That's really like the only word I can really use to describe how they played, because there were not many people in action only up until, the second half of the game when the scoring actually started. And, Austin Eckler was really the only highlight of the entire first half, and for Washington. And when you're playing like that, and you have only one receiver against a team like Philly, when Philly is at home, it's not going to really go good for you. Now, with Jaden Daniels, this game has sort of confirmed my thought process on Jaden Daniels and Washington overall as a team. And it might be a little bit early to say this, but Jaden Daniels and Washington, they only seem to win against really bad teams. And it's almost similar to how Dak usually only wins against really bad teams. Again, I'm not going to compare the two because I think Jaden Daniels is phenomenal, without a doubt, offensive rookie of the year. But when I look at their wins and the teams that they lost to this season, they have really only been able to beat incompetent teams. Now, let's go through their schedule. So, the Buccaneers, they ended up losing in week 1 to the Buccaneers. They lost 37-20. First game, I get it. But again, now the Buccaneers, when they were at that point in the Buccaneers season, all of them were healthy. They had Mike Evans. They had a number of other wide receivers that were also healthy for the team. There was also Chris Godwin in there. I already mentioned Mike Evans. Rachaad White was in there as well. And Mike Evans ended with 2 touchdowns in that game. And Baker Mayfield played phenomenally well in that game as well. They were all healthy, and it makes total sense that they ended up beating Washington because that was Jaden Daniels' first game. But aside from that, they are a really solid team, and in my opinion, they are a team that, they're second in the NFC South right now, and I feel like this team is much better than their record and also rather talented. And if it weren't for injuries, their record might be a little bit better. Now, the first game that they won was against the Giants. We know how bad the Giants are. Then they beat the Bengals. Now, at that point, the Bengals, they were not that good of a team. Their defense was absolutely atrocious, and their defense still is atrocious. And they were 0-3, well, 0-2 in this game, up until this game. And that game ended up pushing them to 0-3. So, not a very solid, well-rounded team. They had weaknesses, and a huge weakness for the Bengals, and it still is a weakness, is the defense. And then the next game that they ended up winning was the Cardinals, another team that at that point had struggles on the defensive side of the ball. Now, it was only the defensive side of the ball. Now they've seemed to sort of revamp their defense. They have not allowed a touchdown in the last few games, to my knowledge. So that is very, very impressive. Considering how they gave up 42 points to the Commanders, and now they come in with 3 games where they don't give up a touchdown, that is incredible work. Then they ended up beating the Browns, one of the worst teams in the NFL. They lose to the Ravens, one of the better teams in the NFL. They beat the Panthers, one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Bears, not the best team, rather mediocre. In fact, I think they, with the coach that they had, the offensive coordinator that they had, they were not all that good. And then they also beat the Giants again. They lose to the Steelers, and now they lose to the Eagles. So it seems like Washington is only really playing well against incompetent teams. So that's sort of my opinion on Washington right now. And I mean, the Eagles, now, ever since they beat the Giants, because of course, they ended up playing phenomenal football. They've been playing phenomenal football for a while these past few weeks now. So I wasn't really surprised with this outcome. Again, they completely destroyed the Cowboys. Thank you so much. They beat the Jaguars without Trevor, I believe, in this game. I believe Trevor was already out. Nope, Trevor was in this game, and he threw 2 interceptions. Of course he did. The Bengals, they beat the Bengals. The Bengals did not have a solid defense. They beat the Giants, and they really completely wiped the floor with majority of these teams. They've been winning these games. So I completely expected this outcome. But let's go ahead and test my luck in the next segment. So the next segment is going to be talking about NFL predictions. So I'm going to look at every single team that's going to be playing on Sunday. And we're also going to look at the Monday night game, and we're going to predict to see, well, I'm going to predict and see how many games I end up getting right, and I'll talk about that on Monday as well. But we're going to go ahead and go into our predictions right after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in